What's up everyone? Welcome to Ashley Talks Movies. Today's video is a review of Nightbitch, which is adapted from Rachel Yoder's 2021 novel of the same name. The movie is written and directed by Marielle, whose previous work includes The Diary of a Teenage Girl, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and Can You Ever Forgive Me? Here, Amy Adams plays a character we only know as Mother, a woman who gave up her career as an artist to be a stay-at-home mom. As she becomes increasingly frustrated with the perils of motherhood and of the life that she gave up, she begins to notice changes in her body. Changes that lead her to believe that she's turning into a dog. Before I jump into the review, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos I post here on the channel.
Do you just love getting to be home with them all the time? Yeah, I do. I love it.
Nightbitch is a quirky movie about a woman who is basically going through an existential crisis, and she starts to tap into her more animalistic nature to deal with it. So the movie uses this premise as a way to tackle some of these really compelling themes, like the realities of motherhood and parenthood, the struggles of marriage, and also the social expectations that come with it. So Mother starts to notice hair in places that it shouldn't be. Her sense of smell is stronger. She suddenly has an insatiable craving for meat. So is she turning into a dog? Or is it all in her head? Well, the movie is constantly blurring the lines between reality and fantasy, and it mostly leaves it up to the audience to decide what's real and what's not. But director Marielle also uses that dog transformation as a metaphor for the character's desire to break free from a life she feels trapped in. For me, the story felt largely unfocused, as if it was trying to juggle too many things. It's tackling motherhood and parenthood and how that can be, overwhelming for some people, and how there's all these expectations from society that you're supposed to just really love being a mother once you become a mother, and that might not always be the case. It's also dealing with a marriage that's failing. It's dealing with a character who has resentment and frustration about the career that she gave up to become a mother. It's dealing with a character who is feeling like she's less of herself, like she's lost herself since becoming a mother. And it also starts to introduce a bunch of different ideas that don't really feel fully realized. For instance, Mother encounters a group of other mothers when she's with her son at library and different events. And when they're introduced, it felt like maybe the story was going to set up some other kind of, deeper aspect of maternal bonding. And it's kind of introduced, but then largely abandoned. There's also a character that's a librarian that kind of serves as sort of like this mystical figure. And it felt like something more was supposed to happen there, but it didn't. And so those characters, although they're introduced and they're used in the story, are mostly underdeveloped. This movie also awkwardly shifts between different tones. It uses some body horror elements and even some dark humor, but it doesn't really commit to any of those things. For me, it seemed like the movie was either uninterested or afraid to lean into the weirder aspects of the premise, which is a shame because those elements are what make the movie interesting and unique. If you were to strip away the surrealist aspects of this movie, the dog transformation, the body horror, the blurred lines between reality and fantasy, what you end up getting is a pretty straightforward, conventional, mainstream dramedy about a woman who is struggling as a mother and feels trapped in an unequal and unhappy marriage. And there's nothing wrong with that, except there's other movies that have already done that. So having this weirder, odd approach to that story makes it stand out, and the movie plays it safe and doesn't really lean into that aspect of the premise. There's also some really clunky dialogue at times that feels like it was ripped from the pages of a self-help book. And Amy Adams, bless her, also has to deliver these internal monologues that at times just end up explaining everything that's happening on screen. So there's no subtlety whatsoever. This movie I also found to be very sluggish, which was odd considering that it only has a runtime of about 90 minutes. For me, the saving grace of this movie was Amy Adams. She's absolutely terrific, and she really holds this movie together. There's something very authentic about her performance, and it really comes through in the scenes between Mother and her son. There's an opening sequence that kind of shows the routine, mundane aspect of her life. You can see how she's equally parts, nurturing and loving, but also resentful. and frustrated. Amy Adams has this really unique ability to like really pull you in to whatever character she's playing. And that's especially true with this character. And Adams commits to this role, especially in the scenes that require her to do some really strange things, like crawling around on all fours or barking. But again, she commits and she delivers. I honestly don't know if there's going to be any awards conversation around Amy Adams' performance here. I think there should be, because I do think she's delivering a really great performance, but she's also delivering a great performance in a not so great movie. And so I don't know if that'll hold it back or not. Scoot McNairy plays her husband, who is just completely oblivious to the problems in his marriage or the struggles of his wife. But, thankfully McNairy has a certain charm about him that prevents his character from coming across as a bad guy. I mean, he's completely useless. The movie makes that very clear. But he means well. I didn't love this movie. I wanted to, but I did like it. And I think that's partly to do with the fact that there are some aspects of this movie that do work pretty well. I like the messaging here. I really liked how this movie was tackling, this idea of motherhood and how some women might struggle with it and how they might feel like they have to sacrifice so much just to become a mother, and how sometimes the balance between motherhood and career isn't fair for women, and how sometimes they might feel like if they're in a relationship, a marriage, or some other partnership where they're carrying the burden of raising the child while their partner is able to go out, work, live, and exist in the world in a way that they can't. And so I think the movie does a pretty decent job with that. The main reason I like this movie was because of Amy Adams. I mean, her performance is great, and like I said, she really sells it. And she is, taking this movie to another level that I don't think it would have reached without her in it. So I think the biggest problem for me is that this movie squanders its premise. It's a really interesting premise here that it doesn't do quite enough with. And it really needed to be darker. It needed to be grittier. It needed to really lean into the weirder aspects of the story to make its critiques and arguments about motherhood and parenthood and all these other things stronger, to really make it stand out from other movies that already kind of cover these types of topics. So that was unfortunate. It was a bit of a letdown. And, I really think, the ending too kind of attributes to that, where everything just sort of wraps up really neatly. It was a little too tidy of an ending. But again, I liked it and I didn't love it. So those are my thoughts on Nightbitch. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe and stick around for more videos like this.